Hi, my name is Greg, and today I would like to walk you through 5 questions from latest meteorology exam. And topic for today will be air masses and fronts. So, going to the questions. Question number 1: the air mass in the warm sector of a polar front is, and options are equatorial air, tropical air, Arctic air, and polar air. So, polar front is a boundary between two air masses, the polar air mass and the tropical air mass. You also may remember that this is also a boundary between Ferrous air and polar air. The phenomenon associated with the polar front is the polar front depressions. Now, due to a circular movement around the wall on the southwest side of the depression, cold polar air is being pushed southwards, undercutting tropical air. This is how cold front develops. On the southeast side, on the other hand, the warm tropical air mass is being forced northwards, sliding over the cold polar air mass, creating warm front. In between of cold and warm front, we have the warm sector with a warm tropical air mass. So coming back to the question itself, we can immediately exclude Arctic and equatorial air mass because, as I mentioned before, the polar front is a boundary between polar and tropical air. Since the questions ask about air mass in a warm sector, the correct answer will be answer number 2, tropical air. And this answer is correct. Question number 2. A cold front with severe thunderstorms, heavy rain, hail, and violent gusts has just moved overhead an airport. According to the significant weather chart, the front moves at a speed of 35 knots perpendicular to the front. The worst weather should have passed over the airport in approximately 13 to 24, 7 to 12, 1 to 3, or 4 to 6 hours. So for this question, we have to know that the band of weather associated with a cold front is usually within a range of 30 to 100 nautical miles. Now, knowing that and having a speed of the front from the significant weather chart, it's very simple to calculate that the correct answer will be 1 to 3 hours. Because if we divide 30 nautical miles by 35 knots, we will have less than 1 hour. And 100 nautical miles dividing by 35 knots will be roughly 3 hours. So answer number 3 will be correct. Now, question number 3. The average slope of a cold front is in the order of. Well, this is unfortunately one of these questions that we have to just remember some numbers. For questions regarding fronts, I would highly recommend you to remember, for example, values for average slope of cold and warm fronts, how far the front can extend, and the range of weather bands, and how fast each front can move. There are several questions asking about these numbers, so it's worth to remember. Here, you are asked about slope of cold front, which is around 1 to 50 to 1 to 75. Although some sources also say it's up to 1 to 100, so answer number 1, it's perfectly correct, 1 to 80. And this is the correct answer. Now, question number 4. Which of the following statements about warm occlusions is true? Okay, so we had to find the one that just describes properly warm occlusion. So let's start with describing what occlusions actually are. So in the frontal depressions, the cold front travels faster than the warm front. Eventually, it undercuts a warm sector and catches and merges with a warm front, creating an occluded front. Now, since the warm sector is entirely lifted above the surface and both fronts are combined, we should expect severe weather associated with both cold and warm front. So a lot of CBs from the cold front embedded in stratiform clouds from the warm front. Now, the difference between a warm and cold occlusion is that in a warm occlusion, the cold air brought by cold front is warmer than the cold air in front of a warm sector. That's why on the surface pressure chart, the warm occlusion will be aligned with a warm front. Now, we can see that only answer describes a warm front is answer number 4. A warm occlusion is a combination of a warm and a cold front. At the surface, it resembles a warm front with embedded CBs, and the precipitation falls ahead of the surface position of the front. So answer number 4 is correct. Now, the last 5th question. Which abbreviations fill in the sentence correctly? 1 is a cold, dry air mass. 2 is a moderately cold, moist air. 3 is a warm, moist air mass. And 4 is a warm, dry air mass. So to answer this question, we have to know the air mass classification. The first lowercase letter describes the air mass humidity characteristics. So basically, we are talking about the surface over which this mass has been created. And now we have 2 options. Mike for maritime, which implies humid, moist air, and Charlie for continental air mass, which implies dry air. Now, the second capital letter describes the temperature of the air mass. And Echo is for equatorial, Tango is for tropical, Papa for polar, and the coldest is Alpha for Arctic, or Alpha Alpha for Antarctic. We can also have a third lowercase letter that describes air mass temperature relative to the surface of which it is moving. So Whiskey for warm and Charlie for cold. Now let's try to decode the correct answer. So number 1 should be cold and dry mass. So dry mass means that it's going to be continental mass, and cold is going to be polar. So we see that only answer number 3 and 4 might be correct. So we can exclude answers number 1 and 2. Now, the number 2 air mass is a moderately cold, moist air mass. So it's going to be maritime. Both are maritime in answer number 3 and answer number 4. But it's moderately cold. So I would say that we're talking now about answer number 4, which is polar, because in answer number 3, the second air mass is Arctic. So it's a very cold air mass. Let's check the next one, number 3. And it is a warm, moist air. Okay, so because it is moist air, it has to be maritime. So we see that this is number 4. Answer number 4 would be correct. And with tropical warm air. And now 4th air mass is a warm, dry mass, continental mass, tropical air mass. That's also sounds correct. So answer number 4 will be correct. And this correct. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time.